पल्लवी मैडम, हेडफोन है आपके पास? हेडफोन? वो माधुरी मैम कल पूछ रहे थे क्या रे के सना। सना आपकी सिस्टर है ना, छोटी?
रोल नंबर 22।
हमें 15 से। हेडफोन है आपके साथ में?
Yes, roll number 4. Already gate जुड़ चुके हैं आप बायोडाटा रीड कर सकते हैं। Yes, roll number 4, रेखा मैम।
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good, मैम already registered person
Good
join
morning, sir.
बायोडाटा रीडिंग।
Start, sir.
Yes, ma'am, read the biodata.
I have to share or okay, sir. Respected dignitaries, esteemed faculty members, dear participants and guests, good morning and a very warm welcome to all. It's my great pleasure and privilege to extend a heartfelt welcome to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Jayan Bhaskar Sevdekar. Dr. Sevdekar is a distinguished academician, researcher, theatre practitioner, Bharatanatyam exponent.
Hello, ma'am, वो biodata छुट्टी का second नहीं है।
Sir, can you talk in English? I want to share.
मैम मुझे आप चेक कीजिए ग्रुप पे।
Sir, I don't know Hindi. Can
सुभाष
you
कोम्बडे
please?
सर का मैम बायोडाटा है। शिवदेकर सर का आफ्टरनून सेशन है।
Shivdekar sir is afternoon.
आफ्टरनून, यस। मॉर्निंग सेशन मैम आप ऑलरेडी चेक कीजिए ग्रुप पे, तो मैं एक बार फिर से शेयर कर रहा हूँ ग्रुप पे।
Okay. Yes, sir. All?
मैम मैंने अभी शेयर किया ग्रुप पे, मैं चेक।
Yes, sir. Guest is Tulshidas Kombde, right, sir?
Hello.
यस राइट मैम।
Hello, sir. The echo is coming. So, hello. Hello. Hello.
यस मैम, आप रीड कीजिए बायोडाटा सर का.
Yes, sir.
Sir, is my sound clear?
नो सर, वो आपका आवाज ही हो रहा है सर.
सर एक बार आप लीव दोबारा ज्वाइन कर लीजिए सर, आई थिंक.
शायद.
Can I start, sir?
Madam, just wait 1 minute. Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir. Now your voice is very clear and audible.
Okay, sir. Okay. Please.
रेखा मैम,
Sir,
आप
how many participants are there, sir? Hello.
34, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Yes, ma'am. sir.
Is my screen visible?
सर. यस सर.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Yes.
रेखा मैम इंट्रोड्यूस कर दो सर को.
Office. Very good morning to one and all. It's a matter of great pride and privilege to introduce Professor Dr. Subhash Tulshidas Kombde, an eminent academician, researcher, and administrator par excellence in the field of economics. Professor Kombde is currently serving as professor in the Department of Economics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, with an illustrious career spanning over 23 years of teaching experience and 17 years of dedicated research. He has made outstanding contribution to higher education, policy research, and academic administration. His areas of specialization include development economics, public economics, economics of education, and policy research. He has an impressive academic record with 25 research articles, 4 authored books, 4 co-authored books, 7 edited books, and 10 book chapters to his credit, along with 24 paper presentation and the organization of 13 various conferences and workshops. Professor Kombde has been a guiding force in research, having successfully supervised 3 PhD scholars, while 8 scholars are currently pursuing their doctoral studies under his mentorship. In addition to his academic achievements, he has held several significant administrative and statutory positions, including head of the Department of Psychology, coordinator of Center for Career Guidance and Psychological Counseling, coordinator for Academic Administration, and bridge course in economics since 2013. He is presently serving as nodal officer for MSFDA, Government of Maharashtra, Pune, and has also contributed as coordinator of Central Placement Cell under Guruvaya Lakshmana Rao Inabdar Cooperative Training Center at Shivaji University. He has actively contributed to several statutory bodies like IKSC, Fee Fixation Committee, Student Grievance Redressal Committee, Prevention of Caste-Based Discrimination Committee, Academic Board, and the Board of Governance. He served as a Board of Studies member and Research Advisory Committee member across various institutions, including Shivaji University, Karmavir Bhuvarao Patil University, Satara and Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University. At the national level, Professor Kombde has contributed as a NAC peer team member and coordinator, a member of academic and administrative audit committees, observer for NTA New Delhi, and an expert member for curriculum revision at NCERT New Delhi. He is a distinguished researcher and a policy expert. He has led and executed numerous high-impact research and consultancy projects, including major policy projects with a total funding of 1.71 crore, comprising ongoing project on the compilation of district domestic product estimates at the district level sanctioned by the Directorate of Economics and Stat, Government of Maharashtra, amounting to 85.14 lakhs, and completed district strategic plans for Yavatmal, Sindhudurg, Solapur, and Raigad districts totaling 85.9 lakhs. He has also completed consultancy projects in the area of social impact assessment amounting to 31.66 lakhs, covering projects such as Vukadi Bridge, Hirian Kekshi Irrigation Project, Amebohal Irrigation Project, Gadgan Road Project, Kiti Jyotipa Road Project, Out Ring Road, Bandara Bridge, while ongoing consultancy projects worth 21.63 lakhs include social impact assessments of the Nasgaon Ring Road, fish and mutton market at Chavandwadi, and the water supply project, Kola. In addition, he has contributed to 25 third-party evaluation projects amounting to 30 lakhs, 11 consultancy research projects with grants of 53 lakhs, and a minor research project on the comparative study of the growth and quality of elementary education in public and private schools in Kolhapur district. Professor Kombde has also actively participated in the national level refresher courses and faculty development programs with NEP 2020, including interdisciplinary teaching initiatives. Vast experience, academic excellence, administrative leadership, and commitment to impactful research make him a distinguished figure in the academic and policy-making community. We are deeply honored to have such a distinguished personality among us today. I extend a warm welcome and heartfelt welcome to Professor Dr. Subhash Tulshidas Kombde and invite him to share his valuable insights in this faculty induction program. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'm grateful to MMTTC, HRDC, MMTTC, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, the director, Professor Mahajan Madam, and other staff at the Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, for giving me this opportunity to present before you, as you all are the faculty members across the country working in various disciplines, and have participated for this induction program, which is in mandatory compliance laid down by University Grant Commission. So we will have a presentation. Just a minute. Sorry for interruption. So this we have, I have particularly selected the topic which is on the screen. You might have seen this Atmanirbhar Bharat opportunities and challenges. Because of I am from the domain of economics, and nowadays we all are listening about the Viksit Bharat 2047 and the government efforts regarding to achieve this Viksit Bharat 2047. What does it mean? What does it mean, Viksit Bharat 2047? What are the components which needs to be taken care, which needs to be understood? How this Viksit Bharat by 2047 could be achieved with the intervention which are required and necessary to make in our economy. When we talk about this Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat, we are always looking for the global market. Nowadays, we cannot perform in isolation because the entire globe is under one what we can say economic umbrella, and each and every country is connected with the global incidences, global opportunities, global challenges, and it impact on their economic growth. So to achieve higher level of economic growth, to achieve the Viksit Bharat, to achieve the higher level of economic growth and to reduce the inflation. Because when we talk about this Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to work on all the aspects, not just only. We have to look into the investment which is made in the economy. Then we have to look into the saving component, then capital formation, then inflation, and the exchange rate, which we today we are seeing that uh, the highly discussed issue. So all these aspects, all these parameters needs to be synchronized to achieve higher level of growth. And all these parameters, economic indicators, needs to be taken care by the what we can say the policymaker. First of all, we will just begin with introduction. So what does it mean Atmanirbhar Bharat and what does it mean that Viksit Bharat at 2047? What actually is that? So today we are seeing that globalization and self-reliance. So these two things are very important and very significant for economy across the globe, because globalization means we have a trade, we have a capital mobility, we have a cultural exchange. So when we talk about globalization, it is a totally associated with industrialization. When we talk about the production system, then it comes that privatization and liberalization. That is what we can call it as a flow of funds from one country or one nation to another nation. And with these three parameters, we can understand the globalization. Another important thing is that self-reliance. Today, we are our government, our policymakers are um, praising that self-reliance India. So what in all the domain of what we can say production, the things which are required for human being should be made within the country. That is a self-reliance. So self-reliance means what? Promoting production, all types of production we can call it as a within the domestic, within the border country, within the domestic sector. So this self-reliance and globalization, these are looking as a opposite to each other. So this is called as a that this paradox is emerged in today's world. Other important aspect is India's response to changing global trade dynamics. Today we are seeing that these trade dynamics are very significant. Where if India want to achieve the Viksit Bharat by 2047 or the self-reliance, then what is important thing that we need to understand the global trade dynamics. So global trade dynamics, another important aspect along with this global trade dynamics is the geopolitics, which today is a highly discussed. So these aspects which needs to be understood while looking into the Viksit Bharat and looking into reaching to the level of Viksit Bharat and reaching to the various parameters which can be lead to India to reach at or to recognize at the Viksit Bharat by 2047, almost 21 years from now. So this global trade dynamics that we need to understand. Today we are seeing that the tariff wars are there. Every country is trying to safeguard themselves. Every country is trying to assure the employment opportunities to their domestic peoples. So these things, their citizens, their production system, their infrastructure, their production. So all these aspects now are, every country is looking for self-reliance, and they equally they are looking for globalization. So in isolation, nothing is possible, because without trade, it is always said that in economics, trade is an engine of growth. So without trade, we cannot run faster, we cannot achieve higher rate of growth. Because before 1990, we were recognized at, and our growth rate was recognized at, spelled at the Hindu growth rate, because it was pegged between 2005 to 3.5%. So in between this, the entire the country operated from 1947 to 1990, after independence up to 1990, when the our economy has been opened for the international trade, our economy has been opened for the globalization and liberalization and privatization. So our economy was recognized as a Hindu growth rate economy. So the growth rate, lower growth rate, and it was a sustainable growth rate. Sustainable meaning that what, it was pegged between 2005% to 3.5%. So these parameters that we need to understand, because without understanding these parameters, we cannot understand how, what interventions are required and what interventions would be beneficial to reach at Viksit Bharat 2047 uh, uh, in all respects. When we talk about Viksit Bharat, means we are looking for from the basic, from the investment side and the consumption side. Both are important to understand. Now, the third important aspect is Atmanirbhar Bharat as a strategic, not isolationist approach. So we are looking for self-reliance. We are, see, 3 years back, India was not an export of defense equipment, uh, equipment. But now India is exporting. Last year, India's export was almost 36,000 crores. So these things are very important. Atmanirbhar Bharat means what? Our production and the line of production, the area of production, and our export to the globe. So these things are very important. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is a strategy, but it is not an isolationist policy. We are not saying that only self-reliance. We are promoting the domestic production. We are trying to promote the production activities carried out by the marginal MSME, we can call marginal small and micro enterprises, because we are trying to motivate them, we are trying to build the base of production where the self-reliance would be achieved. But we are not doing everything in isolation, because simultaneously when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are always pressing that the make in India. So isolationist policy is not at all, it is not at all isolationist policy, but it is a strategy that along with self-reliance, we can have an opportunity to take advantage of global market and to become a part of international trade and to become a highly contributing partner in the economic trade. When we talk about globalization and self-reliance, first of all, that we will see that the globalization. So openness. Our economy is totally open to entire globe because we are seeing that trade. If we look at the composition and direction of India's foreign trade, then you will be able to understand that what commodity that we are exporting and importing, and to whom we are exporting and importing. So what are our trade partners and what is in our basket of import and export. So both the things that we are trying to look. So openness is already accepted because we were the founding member of General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. After 1990, 95, that we became the founder member of World Trade Organization. Means we were not against the globalization. We were not against the tariff policies. We were not against the import. But the openness policy was our core, and therefore we were the founder members of this. Cross-border trade. So we have a trade across the globe. So with each and every country, we have a trade. If you look at the basket of goods, you will see that the different commodities with the different trade partners. International capital flow. This is very important aspects. Today, the issue is highly discussed. If you listen on the talks on economic aspects on various new channels, this capital flow is a determinant of economic growth rate. So international capital inflow and capital outflow, we call it as a capital inflow and capital outflow. So this capital inflow and capital outflow, both that we need to understand, because we term it as a foreign direct investment. So foreign direct investment which is coming to country, and foreign direct investment which is made from the domestic business units across the globe in other countries particularly. So this capital flow is very significant and very important parameter to increase the production, to initiate new types of production in the economy. And when we talk about the our economic system, this is a federal system. We have a states and we have a central government. So we have a central government which is working on the certain areas, and the state government, they are promoting, they are trying to achieve higher growth rate with the attracting of this capital flow. So this international capital flow is also important that we need to understand. We have a foreign direct investment, we have portfolio investment. We are looking that the investment made in the capital market, investment made in the stock exchange. Through stock exchange, we can understand that how much investment is made, how much investment is withdrawn. The fourth important aspect is global supply chain. So this is a very important in current scenario, what we can term as a geopolitics. So supply chain is very important. Now we are seeing that due to the Gulf War between USA, Israel, and Iran and Lebanon, that we are seeing that the entire supply chain has been disturbed, and it impact on the overall economic growth because it impact on the energy sources, and further it impacts on the overall economic growth rate. So these things needs to be understand global supply chain. When we talk about self-reliance, domestic production, we always look for the domestic production. That is called as a self-reliance. So it is what the production has to be carried on within the territorial borders of the country. So domestic production, promoting domestic production. The government of India is taking efforts to strengthen this MSME sector, because this MSME sector is a very significant sector in our economy because it provides the larger employment opportunities. So domestic production has to be carried out, and to boost this domestic production, government has to be take initiatives. Government has to be facilitate to the private production units to increase the production. So the country is looking for domestic production, and to increase the domestic production, there has to be strong this infrastructure base. Without this infrastructure base, strong infrastructure foundation, the domestic production cannot be taken place. So the investment in energy, investment on the roads, investment on the ports, that today we are seeing huge investment has been made on the basic infrastructure facilities, because these basic infrastructure facilities always leads to domestic production. Reduce import dependence. This is what another way through which we can save our currency, because if we save our foreign currency, then we have to reduce the import. And what kind of import? We have to reduce the import of final consumption goods. When we have to increase the imports of intermediate commodities, we can call it as a technology transfer. So import dependence has to be reduced, and indigenous technology has to be developed within the country, and that is what another important parameter which leads to self-reliance. National economic resilience is also important aspect. When we talk about self-reliance, it is what, when we talk about self-reliance, means it is not that we are isolated from the entire group. So we don't have export, we don't have import. So self-reliance means whatever is produced in the country has to be consumed in the country, and we have to export it. So self-reliance means building a strong base of production. If we have a strong base of production, that can lead to increase the growth rate, that can lead to increase the income, and it impact on the consumption, investment, and saving. So these are the important aspects when we talk about self-reliance. Does not imply isolation. It is not isolation. Possesses strong internal capabilities. So these capabilities are very important. So the physical facilities and physical capabilities has to be grown, and there is an equal chance to enhance the capabilities in human resource, where we are termed as a young country in across the globe, because we have a huge manpower. So that manpower has to be strengthened with the capabilities, because without capabilities, the manpower will not have a more contribution, excess contribution to the economic growth. So these capabilities has to be possessed. Third important thing is technology. We are relying on imported technology. So we need to build the technology, and that has to be indigenous technology, that has to be domestic technology. So investment in research and development needs to be initiated. Without investment in we can call it as a in the research and development, we cannot have any new innovations and inventions which can lead for better products in the market, and which can lead for the better technology of production. So without technology, we cannot have a speedy production, and we cannot have a qualitative production. So technology is very important, and that has to be grown. Fourth important aspect is manufacturing. Consistently, we are seeing that the manufacturing is lagging behind. So this manufacturing base has to be built, because this manufacturing has a greater advantage. We can call it as a terms of trade, where manufacturing has a greater advantage of employment opportunities, and it has a greater advantages of value addition. So therefore, the manufacturing has to be strengthened within the country. So to strengthen this manufacturing sector, we need to have again the technology, we need to have a strong base of human capital. Skills, which is which is a highly discussed issue, that skills are very important, because these skills and the demand for skills change over the period of time, because now we are seeing that artificial intelligence and machine learning has taken a place of some kinds of job work. So what we have to enhance the skills which can add value in the market, which can support to the current industrial force. So that is what skill is very important aspects when we talk about the achieving higher growth and with the self-reliance. As we are seeing, we are the most youth. We can termed as India is a youth country, because maiden age of population is 27, 28. So we have a huge manpower, and this manpower has to be trained with the job ready skills. If we provide skills, we can have advantage of this human capital to contribute to gross national product, because we can become a hub to supply this human capital, because that is also an assets. Like physical capital, human capital is termed as an asset, and that needs to be strengthened. Institutions base, that is very important. So the institutions and the working, because today the government is always saying that uh, more governance, less interference. So the governance should be very transparent, and it has to be supportive to the production system, so enabling it to the engage with global economy from position of strength, that needs to be again taken care. Globalization without domestic capacity can lead to vulnerability. So what happens when the globalization, we have accepted globalization after 1995, after the formation of World Trade Organization. We are founding member of World Trade Organization, and we have made agreement through it, what the TRIPS and agreement on agriculture. Under these segments, we have made several propositions. But globalization without domestic capacity can lead to vulnerability. Means what? We will be heavily relied on import. So domestic capacity has to be increased. Then only we can have an advantage of this globalization. Otherwise, our country will become a only market for the production taken place across the globe. So vulnerability, to avoid this vulnerability situation, we need to have a strong domestic production, and we have to strengthen this domestic production capacity, which will again help to the country to earn foreign currency through the export. So how we can increase the export? Because our product must be competitive to the products across the globe, and that needs to be taken care. So excessive import dependence, that we have to avoid. See what happens today also, we are not totally self-reliant in terms of oilseeds. We are not totally self-reliant in terms of pulses. We are self-reliant in food grain production. So we have to increase the base of this self-reliance with paying attention to the things which are required to the country, and we have to assure that how that can be produced within the domestic borders, which can support to feed our population. And if at all possibilities are there, we can have a opportunity to enter in the global market with that kind of production, with the advantage of earning foreign currency. So to avoid this vulnerability, we need to have a excessive, we need to have a reduce excessive import dependence and exposure to external shock. So that is what another important thing. Now we are seeing that the inflation has gone up because the external shocks are there. Definitely, these external shocks not under our control, because we are heavily relied on the for the energy on other countries. And if the supply side shocks are there, then it definitely impact on the prices of the intermediate commodities, and further it impact on the prices, adverse impact on the prices of final consumption goods. That today we are seeing that our prices of oils, that petrol, diesel, and the gas, which is a very important energy source, that we are seeing that the external shocks impact the economy adversely. Not just only the our economy, that is what under the developing economy, but most of the developed economies also suffering with these external shocks. So these external shocks, though they are not in our hands, though we cannot control them, but we can manage the domestic resources in such a way that these shocks and would not be adversely affect on our economic growth. And recently some international agencies have predicted our economic growth during this external shocks and post external shocks. The predictions that they have made, that Indian economy would be uh, would perform between 6% to 7% growth rate range. So these things, that the range, maintaining a certain range, is based on how our policymakers are taking these shocks, and how they are managing this, and how they are channelize the domestic resources in a various production system, channelize them to the production, channelize them through the towards the consumption. These things can again play a crucial role in achieving self-reliance. So global crisis, that we have experienced, the drastic change happens in the what we can say, in the growth rate of growth rate during the pandemic, COVID pandemic, we can call it as a. So during this COVID pandemic, we have seen that the entire system was in trouble, and it has adversely impacted the economic growth, and it put impact for almost for 3 years. So to recover from these shocks, the duration and the resources which are required to come out from the shocks needs to be taken care, needs to be have a careful management of all those resources. So this is another important aspects that we need to understand. Now, when we talk about self-reliance within globalization, means participating in international trade while strategically developing domestic industries. So this domestic industries and promotion of these domestic industries across the globe needs to be taken care. And this is what the important aspects which needs to be understood. Enhancing competitiveness, moving up global value chain. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and China integrated with global market only after building robust domestic production system. So without the production system, without the mass production, we cannot approach to the global market. So first of all, the first condition is that first we have to strengthen the domestic production system. And the domestic production system is based on what kind of monetary policy is applied in the country, what kind of infrastructure is created in the country, and what kind of human resource is available in the country. So all these things are very important to strengthen domestic production system. So to strengthen domestic production system, we have to keep in mind all these parameters, and we have to make sure that while making any intervention in the economy, we have to maintain inflation under control, and even the exchange rate under control, because exchange rate and inflation, that can impact on economic growth of the country. Without considering this inflation and the exchange rate, we cannot have a sustainable, high level sustainable growth rate. So higher growth rate if we want to achieve, and we have to maintain it without any disturbances. We need to have a strong domestic production system, and we have to be very cautious about the inflation and the exchange rate management. When we talk about these predictions, as we have termed it as the, what we can say, Viksit Bharat. What does it mean, Viksit Bharat? When we talk about Viksit Bharat, means we have a three predictions. So one prediction per capita or GDP predictions that we have. So Ernst & Young is an agency. We have forecasted our economy. We have estimated our economy will reach at 2000 by 2047. That will reach to 26 trillion. So today our GDP is 4 trillion US dollar. So the Ernst & Young, by considering all factors, because they have taken the support of back almost 25 years data, data about what the interest rate in the economy, inflation in the economy, and then this inflation and exchange rate in the economy. So considering all this and taking into care of the economic growth, annual economic growth since last 15 years, 25 years, they have estimated that Indian economy will reach at 2026 trillion by 2047. So this is what one estimates which has been made by Ernst & Young. The second estimate is made by the Goldman Sachs, and they have forecasted that the Indian economy will reach at $55 trillion by 2075. By 2075, hello? Hello? Any clarification? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay. So this is again international agency who has forecasted our economy. That is what the Indian economy will reach by $55 trillion by 2075. The third estimate is made by the government of India that the Indian economy will reach by 30 to 35 trillion by 2047. So looking into these three estimates, there are variations, there are differences in this in these figures, which was Ernst & Young has mentioned that $26 trillion by 2047, and Government of India is estimating $30, at least minimum level $30 by 2047. So when we look into these figures, that they have estimated these figures based on inflation, based on the exchange rate, and based on the nominal GDP. So when we talk about this Government of India estimates, they have taken into consideration the important parameters about this. When we talk about this, looking into these three estimates, so per capita income, what would be the per capita income? Today, our per capita income is $2,800 to $3,000 per annum. So per capita income, if we reach at the Government of India estimates made by 2047, that if our economy reach at $30 trillion, then our per capita income would be 50,000 to 26,000 US dollar. So when we talk about this 15 to 26,000 US dollar, if we convert it into rupee, then you will see that there will be a huge jump in the per capita income if we count it in terms of money. So that is what, and today's the purchasing power parity, That is what the purchasing power parity of rupee. So how rupee can buy the commodity as compared to the dollar. So it is 2,800 to 3,000 is a is without the purchasing power parity, and with purchasing power parity 12,000 to 13,000 US dollar. So it almost 4 times when we talk about purchasing power parity of India. So it will be four times than the per capita income. If we look at the per capita income, 15,000 to 26,000, 20,000, if we look, then the by PPP, the India's per capita income by PPP would be $80,000. If we convert it to with the exchange rate, uh, which would be there by 2047, then you can imagine that what would be the per capita income of Indian people, and what should be the how much amount of goods and services would be required to the population. Looking into the population growth also, so we have to refer that population growth also. So when we talk about this nominal GDP divided by population, so that is what population that we have taken into account, and we have referred the current market prices to estimate this. When we talk about this concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance with global integration, focused on domestic capacity, innovation, and competition. So competitiveness. These three things are very important. Why our we are a very minimal contributor in the international trade, particularly when we talk about export, that we don't have a sufficient domestic capacity of production. So we have to enhance this domestic capacity of production with making some interventions that are associated with the infrastructure, that are associated with the entire economy. Another important thing is what innovations. These innovations are very important, because without innovations we cannot have a introduction of new commodity in the market, and we cannot have a new technology of production. So technology again is very important for building up the competitiveness. Why the most of the imported product are more competitive to our domestic product? Because they have build it with their basis with innovation and invention. So and therefore they are more competitive as compared to the our products. The another important aspects when we are looking to our production system, that is what our vision is, local to global. So promotion of these local commodities, and we have to build the base of these local commodities to global. Then we have to have a strong manufacturing infrastructure. See, India has potential in agriculture sector also, but the processing, in terms of processing, the India is not performing as compared to the other developing countries. So we have to build the base of this processing sector, and with this processing sector, we can have a higher level of economic development. We can have a higher level of export. We can increase the value. So value addition would be made there in the agriculture. Today we are seeing that agriculture sector is suffering with price shocks. Sometime the agriculture produce is thrown on the roads, and sometime it has a value unexpected increase in the prices of that produce. So these fluctuations are required. Inflation is required, but by larger extent, it adversely affect the entire production system. So our vision is about to local to global. From local, that we are reaching to the global. So local, strengthening local producers is our ultimate goal. So strengthening them, when we have to we have to equip them with the advanced tools, through which they can become competitive to the global market. So today that capacity building is important. So they can sustain in the global market, but with the capacity building, if there is a support to build their capacity, then only they will be able to strengthen in the global market. When we talk about this Atmanirbhar Bharat, the basic introductory kind of things that we have taken into consideration. What is the investment, why the FDI is important, capital flow, inflow and outflow, then the exchange rate, and then the interest rate, then the growth rate achievements. So looking into all these and the basic foundation of the economy, infrastructure scenario, and with this infrastructure scenario, how much research and development in taking place in line of the production. So that is what another important aspects what we are looking for. So this is what another important aspect when we talk about this. Now, when we talk about the four pillars, there is one theory in the economics that is called as a Rosenstein-Rodan theory, that is called as a big push theory. So when we are talking about achieving the Viksit Bharat by 2047, the incremental change is not sufficient to achieve the higher growth rate, but it requires quantum jump. But in what area the quantum jump is required? The quantum jump is required in infrastructure. The quantum jump is required in logistic supply chain management. The quantum jump is required in the foreign direct investment, portfolio investment. The quantum jump is required in high technical products, like we have seen that semiconductor industry. So quantum jump is required in the investment in export oriented units, that we have seen that the investment is made in defense equipment. So this quantum jump is required in education, how we are making our human resource. So to groom entire production system, we need to have a big push efforts. Big push efforts means we have a drastic interventions. Because when we talk about incremental changes, our economy will be pegged with 6 point to 7 point. If we want to break this range and to move in the next range, that is 8% to 10%, then the quantum jump is required. And for this quantum jump, the government policies, the government interventions, and the attraction of the international agents, production agents into the country needs to be taken care. So if we want to build the economy, if we want to build the base of the economy, looking into the Viksit Bharat 2047, we need to have a quantum jump, but not the incremental jump. That needs to be understood. Industrial production has to be increased. There should be a higher growth in industrial production, because the sophisticated industrial production has to be increased, and with this increase that we can have a advantage of export, we can have an advantage of fulfilling the domestic demand from the domestic production sector. The third important aspect is service sector is a ever growing service sector. We have seen that the large international service providers are entering to our market. So we have to build the domestic base of this service sector, and service sector, which comprises almost 55 to 59% of our economy, has to be strengthened with the important facilitation through the digital services. So digital economy and this service sector, that we can have to take care of this with the digital facilitation. Agro-processing, India has a huge scope for agro-processing because our agricultural produce is sold out in the market, that which has come from the farm, directly farm to the market. To break this marketing channel, we have to introduce the processing sectors, and we have to strengthen this agro processing sector because it will help to increase the value in the production. It can enhance the life of the production. And the third important aspect is it can save the agriculture sector from the severe fluctuation, price fluctuations. Because when we talk about when the harvest period is over, immediately the prices of agricultural produce has gone down. And after the 4, 5, 6 months of harvest, the agricultural produce prices has gone up. So looking into this situation, we need to build the base of agro processing. And this infrastructure in agro processing, it is estimated that we can have a market for this agro processing would be 20 lakh crores. So agro processing has a huge base. And looking into our domestic market, we have a big domestic market. We have a huge domestic market. So through the introduction, through the strengthening the base of agro processing, we can reduce the post-harvest losses by larger extent. So to avoid this post-harvest losses, we have to strengthen the agro-processing sector, and which can again leads for growing the economy and achieving the higher growth rate and providing assurance to the farmers that the prices would not be drastically collapse in the market. So agro-processing has a huge advantage, but the infrastructure required for agro-processing needs to be taken care. If we look at the agro-processing, if we look at the horticulture, crop production, horticulture, then there are so many crops. There are so many groups also. These medicinal crops are also coming up. So we need to understand that the storage facilities, which strengthen the entire base of agro processing. So storage, marketing, processing, sorting, all these kinds of facilitation should be provided and it will again helpful for building the base in the rural area. So we are experiencing a lesser job opportunities in the rural area, and therefore people are migrating from rural to urban. So we can reduce this migration, and to avoid this, we can have a strong base of rural development. So agro processing should be initiated, should be strengthened, and the entire infrastructure base has to be built from the public sector. The farmers, they don't have a capacity to invest in agriculture for the value addition, and therefore the intervention and the support mechanism is required to build the base of this agro processing. Second important aspect is that infrastructure. So that without infrastructure, if we have seen that China has experienced GDP growth at almost 11%. They reached that 11% sometime. Why they could reach that 11%? Because they had built the strong base of domestic production. So the production capacity, domestic production capacity that they have built, and they had attracted huge investment across the globe through the way of foreign direct investment and through the way of a portfolio of investment. So what they did to achieve that, they built the infrastructure. So they built the big infrastructure particularly in the logistic management, global supply chain management, that is called as a ports. They had a huge ports. Then they have built the infrastructure of roads. Then they have built the infrastructure of human resource. So they worked upon several aspects of economic development simultaneously. And as we have seen that quantum jump, they have taken quantum jump between 2000 to 2005 to 2010. 1995 to 2010, they had taken a huge jump in the global production system. And therefore, they reached at the higher level of economic growth. So with that kind of economic intervention, policy intervention, the infrastructure leads to the modern production system and resilient system. So infrastructure again can play a significant role in economic development. What is there in the infrastructure? Roads, the preconditions. It is always said that the roads are nerves of the economy. So wherever the road has reached, the economic benefits, the production and the goods for final consumption has reached. So the roads are very important. Good road network is important. Then for import and export, we need to have a strong base of port system. So the ports are also important. Recently, even the government of India and the government of Maharashtra has taken initiative about this infrastructure, that port has to be built, because the entire trade, the big amount of trade has been done through the ports, through the waterways, and the ports are very important. Then IT infrastructure. Today we are seeing that the digital facilitation and the information and technology infrastructure. So this information and technology, recently government has announced that they will build the strong infrastructural base for semiconductor production. So this infrastructure industry, IT infrastructure is a need of the modern time. If you don't have cyber security, what is there? Then digital facilitation at the rural level. So all these IT infrastructure are important. And as compared to the achieving Viksit Bharat goal, these infrastructure are not sufficient. Technology driven system. So this is what another important pillar for Viksit Bharat, or we can call it as Atmanirbhar Bharat. Technology driven system has to be initiated, and with the initiation of this technology driven system, there is a possibility of of achieving this higher level of economic growth. Export of sophisticated item, that is called as a semiconductor, automobile, and make in India. Nowadays we are not just looking for make in India, but we are looking for make in India and make for the world. We are just not producing to fulfill the domestic demand, but we are looking for international market opportunities. So whatever is produced in the country, it has to be consumed in the country, but some portion from that we should be able to export, and through which we can earn the foreign currency, which is again a necessary and sufficient condition to achieve higher level of economic growth and to build the strong production base. So this semiconductor has a huge potential. The estimation of the semiconductor industry by 2030, the semiconductor industry alone would reach to $5-6 trillion. So there are advantages, and that can be taken, that can be available for the India. Now, when we look about this way of understand what important aspects that has to be taken care in the economy. what important interventions needs to be made in the economy, what massive actions has to be taken in the economy to achieve higher growth rate. We can say that to achieve the growth rate, and it has to be reached by 9% in coming almost 5 years. So if we reach at the 9-10%, then only the Viksit Bharat or the 30 or $35 trillion economy is possible. But without building a strong base of economy, strong base of infrastructure, strong setup of industries, the skillful human manpower, we would not be able to take advantage of global economy. We cannot have an opportunity to enter in the global market with our existing production system. Now, after this, the another important aspects that needs to be understood, that is what vibrant demography. Because when we look at the India and the global economies, all the global economy, their industries, they wanted to have their units in the country like India, where a strong domestic consumption base is available. And therefore, they are looking to India, not just only the place of production, but the required number of consumers, which would be able to consume whatever is produced in the country. So India has a dual advantage. First of all, that is what the huge base of the consumer. And another important advantage is that we can attract the international manufacturer to the country with the cheap labors and low cost of production. So those two advantages are rest with the country, and whatever is produced in the country, there is a certain amount of domestic market available. And after that, fulfilling the domestic demand, they can have advantages of export also. So our economy is always termed as a demand-driven economy. So whatever the growth is achieved in our economy, so our growth prediction has not fallen down below the 5% because of we are termed as a demand-driven growth economy or demand-driven economy. So we have a huge base of consumers, and the matter of fact is that we have to give them money, or we can facilitate them with the employment, so through which they can enter in the consumption market, and that is what another important conditions to enter in the domestic market. It is called as the most populous country. That is, our population is 1.46 billion now, and our growth rate is between now our growth rate is population growth rate is declining, and the estimates are there. By 2030, it would be 0.5% to 1%. So the declining population growth rate again indicates that what happens, our per capita income would be more, and people will have a more opportunity to have a higher level of consumption in the market. So declining trend in growth will fall below 1% during 2021 to 31, and under 0.5% during 31 to 41. So these are the growth predictions and growth forecast of population. So the 1% and below 1%, if we look at this figure, then what happens in coming future, in coming 20 years, almost 2030, in coming 10 years, 10 or 13 years, that the burden of this population on the natural resources available within the country would be reduced, because the population growth rate is going to be reduced. So how we can take advantage of this? We can have a double advantage of this. Already our country is a youth country, and if there is a declining in growth, there is a possibility of increase in employment opportunity with the drastic and huge efforts taken in the economy by the government. Our maiden age population is 28.7 and working age population is 65. That is between the age of 15 to 64. That is called as a working age population. So when we talk about the 65% population, which is termed as a working age population, and looking into the 100 and almost 41 141 crores population, so the 60% would be almost 85 to 90 crores of the population is as a working population. So if we able to provide employment opportunities to these working age populations, look at what would be the demands in the market. So these things needs to be taken care, and therefore it is always said that the vibrant demography and demand-driven growth. Life expectancy estimates at 70 years by 2040. So 2040's life expectancy estimates are 70 years. So life expectancy is increasing means there is again new challenges will emerge in the economy, because how to feed the population, that is old age population. So below that, before that, we should have to achieve higher level of growth through which the resources would be generated in the economy and government can fulfill the basic facilitation to this old age population. Because the government, if government want to fulfill the facilitation to the old age people, they should have resources. And without the growing economy, government would not have more resources to maintain the economy. So this has to be taken into consideration, that life expectancy estimates also needs to be understood. Large youth workforce. We have a large youth workforce and we have skill gaps. So our entire education system and the whatever is passed in the classrooms, that has to be fulfill the purpose of industry. So whatever skills are required at the industrial level sector, that has to be imbibed in, or that has to be facilitated in the education system. So the skill gap has to be reduced, and with reduction in the skill gap, we would be able to uh, facilitate this large youth with the employment opportunities, and that is again would termed as a bigger, they will participate in the consumption market, and that will again enable the economy to grow at the higher level. So I think we have to take almost 5-10 minutes break.
Yes, sir.
Should we take break?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
At least
10
for
minutes?
15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes, because this is an online one. So personal interactions are not possible. I am just speaking from this side. You are listening from that side. Hmm? So 10
Yes,
minutes.
sir. Okay,
After
sir.
10 minutes, again we will meet. Huh?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Sir, please share off your screen.
remotely model. आवाज येत नाही
त्याचे बोलणं म्हणजे आपल्या ह्याचं चाललंय का? होय. ते आता हे पण उतरायला लागले ना CHB वाले त्यांच्यावर बघा. हे CH आपलं आहे का जरा? होय का? होय का? नशीब. कोणाची कोणाची सही आहे? चिंचे घेतलं ते. कोल्हापूरचं असेल. नशीब ठेवलं तरी आपण एकत्रच येत नाही सर सगळे तसं नाही ना कमी होतो एकत्र आणि म्हणून काहीच त्याचा हे होत नाही की नाही. थोडं तरी झालं पाहिजे. आता हे CHB वाले बघा आता त्यांचं आंदोलन आहे बरोबर का आता ते कमी झालं तुम्ही पण त्या ह्याने टाकला तर नाहीच टाकला इतिहास वाल्याने टाकला जमदाड्याने नसेल टाकलं आणि ते हिने पण नाही टाकलं.
Madam, should we begin? I think we have enough rest. Anybody is there to respond? Hello?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Sir, should we begin?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
My slide, my PPT is visible? Is it visible?
Visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have reached up to this slide that Atmanirbhar Bharat and international trade. So when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat and international trade, so Atmanirbhar Bharat is another aspect and international trade is another aspect. So whatever we have discussed so far regarding the building the base of production system, regarding the creation of infrastructure, regarding maintaining the various rates in the economy like inflation and this exchange rate and the growth rate, interest rate. So all this, keeping in mind all these parameters, let's move further. That is what Atmanirbhar Bharat and international trade. So when we are talking about, see, in isolation, we cannot be a Viksit Bharat because we have limits to the growth because in modern words, the entire globe is connected and as per the World Trade Association, WHO, World Trade, WTO, World Trade Organization's parameters and the conditions that international trade must be there. So each country has to be participate in international trade to keep to get the advantages of comparative cost. That is the main core of this. So instead of buying cheaper commodity and providing to the consumers, why we have to make it by making more cost and selling at the higher price. That is the main crux of this international trade, that is called as a comparative cost advantage. David Ricardo has put before this doctrine about the comparative cost advantage, and he states that the country who has a comparative advantage in one commodity, they have to continue their production with that commodity, and in which commodity they bear more cost, that they have to import from other commodity from the country where the comparative cost of production is lesser as compared to the country. So this needs to be understand basic principle and basic doctrine of international trade, and therefore we cannot grow in isolation. That is a true, because we are not just importing and exporting goods and services, but we are doing technological transfers. We are importing technologies. We are importing intermediate commodities, not a final commodities, just not a final commodities. But these intermediate commodities have a potential for the enhance the production system. So this keeping in mind that integration with global value chain, that is very important aspects when we talk about the international trade. So now it is always said that when we talk about the classical economic models of Adam Smith, who is known as a father of economics. So Adam Smith has stated that what happens, the international trade is an engine of growth, because without international trade the country cannot be progress, and therefore he has promoted that there should not be any restrictions on international trade, that is import and export. The countries who will be participate in international trade, those who have a comparative advantage in particular commodity, and with that commodity they will be participate in international trade. They will buy the cheaper commodity, and they will export the commodities whose cost of production is less in the domestic production system. So this export lead growth, that is very important, because most of the countries which are called as a developed countries, countries from the Europe, countries that is from the American continent, so they are the export lead growth countries, and therefore they are known, they becomes the developed countries. So export lead growth has to be followed, and we are so far behind in terms of the export lead growth, and therefore we have to focus on, therefore as in the few slides back that I have mentioned, that make in India, but not just make in India, but for make in India and make for the world. So whatever is produced in the country, definitely it will be get consumed in the country, but we have to focus on some portion of that production should be exported to other countries and has to be earned in the earn foreign currency, and you have to be participate in international trade from the export side. So this is not just only make in India, but make for globe. That approach is needs to be enhanced, uh, and the intervention in the domestic market should be in line with that, the export targeting from our existing production system. So the export lead growth is very significant and very important. Reduced import dependence in strategic sectors, that is again very important. Nowadays there is a competition, we can call it as a competition in all respects, like the competition of arms and making of arms and ammunitions, that is also the competition. So what has to be done, that we have to reduce import dependence, particularly in strategic sectors, and if we able to do this, then only the export lead growth is possible. So import dependence has to be reduced. Earlier, we had a policy of import substitution and export promotion. So nowadays we are promoting export, and we are not trying to import substitute, but we are trying to reduce the dependence on the import in the key strategic sectors, because we are looking for some indigenous technology development which can lead for economic development in coming future. So what are the opportunities for India? This is what another important aspects when we are talking about the opportunities, looking into the entire perspective, entire global perspective, entire opportunities across the globe, and making or strengthening our existing domestic system. What opportunities are there for India? If we look at the opportunities in India, that is strengthening manufacturing. That is the base of export. So we have to strengthen the manufacturing, domestic manufacturing. That is called as a capacity building. Manufacturing in all respect. We have to build a strong base of manufacturing. We have to join more partners when we are talk about the exchange, and we have to build a strong capital base for this manufacturing sector. So infrastructure is a necessity and must conditions for carrying out any production activities or any manufacturing activities. So make in India and the make for the world. So it is not just in make in India and make for India, but make in India and make for the world. Now we have introduced, when we are exporting our arms and ammunition, defense tools to some of the countries, and that amount last year it was 25,000 crores last to last year, and last year we have increased again, almost 50% increase happens in that, and it reached like 36,000 crores. So these strategic manufacturing has to be taken speed in the country where the demand across the globe is at the higher side. So we have to make some intervention in that, and that will help to increase the country's export. Export diversification. So exports not just should be in one line, but it has to be diversified export. So export diversification, it is not, we are in pharma, we are leading, but in electronics we are not leading, and defense we are not leading. Then we have to pay more focus on defense and electronics and other areas where the export possibilities are more. So export diversification is also a key opportunity that country has, because we have a strong pharmaceutical base, we have a strong pharmaceutical industry network, and we have to utilize that in utilize that for the getting advantage from the across the globe. So this is what about the pharma, electronics, and defense. In electronics, that semiconductor is there. So we have to pay more attention on the semiconductor because it is growing, and there is a huge demand across the globe. And the country like Taiwan and country like South Korea, uh, they are leading what we can say exporter, manufacturer and exporters in this. So how we can channelize, how we can divert that investment to our country, and how we can increase the export of that particular goods. So that is what another important aspect, and of course the defense that the India has entered now. So these areas, these are the, for example, for the sake of example, that we have taken these three areas, but there are agricultural processing, agricultural produced processing, that has a bigger scope when we talk about the global market. There are very small countries in the Latin American countries, that is Chile, Honduras, and Paraguay, Uruguay. They are processing most of their agricultural produce. They are export oriented, the agri-oriented economies. So we have to build the strong base of agro processing. That will again help, and that will diversify our export. Instead of sending the raw fruits and vegetables for consumption, if we could process them, that would be again helpful for uh, earning the foreign currency for our country. Attracting FDI and PLI schemes. So this is what about The FDI, this is very important investment when we are talk about the China's growth story and the foreign direct investment. If we go through the China's growth story, the foreign direct investment has played a significant role in the entire Chinese economic development. So FDI is a very crucial and very important tool through which, without keeping burden, without making more public investment through the FDI, if we could able to attract more FDI in the diversified areas, like we can say defense, electronics, pharma, agro processing, then engineering, commodities. So it will be beneficial to enhance the growth. That is what massive action means. What this FDI has to be diverted to our country, and uh, we have to take efforts to increase the FDI. Becoming a trusted global supply chain partner. Now, how we can become a global trusted supply chain partner? with with the building a strong and robust infrastructure, because the strong and robust infrastructure again will lead to enhance the economy. So this trusted global supply chain partner, to become a trusted global supply chain partner, we have to build a strong base of infrastructure like ports, roads, transportations, communications, so we can reap the rewards of international trade. If we look at these broad pictures that we have seen, when we are talk about the sector-wise opportunities, because there are several sectors in the economy. Almost, I can tell you that there are almost 29 sectors and subsectors in the economy whose growth, whose total contribution in the GDP is measured, and broadly they are classified in primary, secondary, or manufacturing and the service sector. So service and manufacturing sector are contributing by larger percentage, and the primary and allied sector is contributing by a smaller percentage. So that is what another important aspects when we are talking about the sector wise contribution of the in the Indian economy. So when we are talking about these sectors, looking into the agriculture or allied sectors and manufacturing sectors, and then the service sectors. So service sectors has contributing a larger than the industry and then the agriculture. Now, if we look at the sector-wise opportunities to participate in international trade, that is when we talk about manufacturing. See, 4 days back, there was a news that the investment made is in Taiwan and South Korea in semiconductor and their stock market. There was a debate on that, how the investment is attracted by them and how their stock market is performing better. So when we look at this, we have an opportunity of semiconductor and electronics. Already India has started making intervention and investment in the semiconductor infrastructure and the electronics infrastructure. But this sector can contribute by a larger extent to our economy and provide more number of employment opportunity in the country. If we look at this, valued at over 680 billion in 2024 and projected to hit over $1 trillion by 2030 to 34. If we look at these figures, the semiconductor and electronics, particularly semiconductor, so it valued at $680 billion when we are talking about 24, and the projections are about the $1 trillion. So look at $1 trillion industry, and compound annual growth rate is 15.4%. So it's the highest growing sector. I can tell you that a 15.4% growth performing sector means highest growth performing sector in the economy. So we have to pay more attention towards this, and that needs to be understood well. Huh? Marathi. So this is what about when we are talking about this 618 and 1 trillion. So we can participate in this $1 trillion market. If we strengthen infrastructure, if we could attract more market manufacturing players in the country, then we can have an advantage of this $1 trillion sector, which is available across the globe. So the market is spread across the globe, so we can have an advantage of this entire sector. India has made almost 76,000 crores initiative to boost manufacturing, display and design infrastructure, and that current share is 1.3%. So this is what the manufacturing sector where we can focus more. So, and we can reap the rewards which are available and the market available across the globe. And this will be a continuous flowing market. It is not a market once we have produced something and we have sold out, we have sold it later on. So this is we can call it as a continuous market flow, continuous demand flow market that is existed, and we can have advantage of that. When we talk about agriculture, the agriculture is a value added sector. So whatever agriculture is produced, that has an opportunities, that has an potential to participate in international trade. So we can term it as agro exports. So this agro exports also have a greater opportunities, because if we look at our agricultural sector and the fluctuations in the prices and the uncertainties arise due to various reasons, we need to have building a strong base of agriculture processing, agro processing, that can be termed as. So the current export of this agriculture sector is 4.5 lakh crores, and we have targeted it to 20 lakh crores by 2028. If we look at the budget of last 2-3 years, several boards has been declared and established by the central government. That is what a Makhana board is there last year, that they have promoted the horticulture cultivations like areca nut, cashew nut, coconut. So promoting this and taking advantage of this, because all these items are processing items. So cashew nut is processing product, then the coconut that we have, we can process it, and the makhana, which is a high price commodity. So we need to look into areas or the some crops which has an export potential, and we have to build a strong foundation for that, and the facilitation by the government has to be initiated for that. So agriculture sector can contribute again in the international trade, but through the way of providing various facilities to the agriculture sectors, cultivators, manufacturers, processors, then only we can have a potential in this particular area. Service sector is again, as I told you, is the highest contributing sector to the economy, almost 57 to 59%. So service sector comprises of in information technology, IT, then fintech. Today, the fintech is a very important sector, because everything is on the online mode, and therefore the fintech and the entire global fintech market has changed by a larger extent. And the third one is a digital trade. So the employment opportunities, huge employment opportunities can be created in all these three areas. We are not just looking up to the increase in production, but we are looking up to the creation of employment, because this creation of employment is a prime goal of our government, our policymakers, our country. So the huge, large number of employment opportunities can be created in all these three sectors where the bigger scope is available. So this is what in the IT and fintech and digital trade, that is a cyber security. And for this cyber security, we have to build a strong base of digital network. So this digital network is very important, and digital divide that we have to avoid, because when we talk about the across the country's digital network, in rural area we seems that the digital network is not in proper speed and not in proper quantity. So cyber security, cloud computing, and AI powered automation, and this market size, approximate market size is $160 billion. So this is again another important sector where the country has to be work on, and opportunities has to be encashed in these sectors. Defense and space, already we had discussed that the indigenous production with the export potential, that both the things are very important and very significant to understand. The next is what growth incentives. If we look at the growth incentives, then we need to understand that this Atmanirbhar Bharat is termed as a self-reliant India. So self-reliant means what? Whatever is required for the country, we have to try to produce at domestic level with the competitiveness to the global product. It is not just only the matter of fact of production, but it is about the competitiveness of that product must be at the global level. So whatever is required, we can produce that, but will it be competitive to the market? That needs to be understood, because the today's market is global market. We cannot avoid the import, because we are abide with the rules and regulations. So if we put more restriction through the way of tariff on imported commodity, the other country will retaliate us through the way of putting more tariffs on our commodities. So there would be then tariff war would begin. So to considering that, the fact is that we have to try to build a strong base of infrastructure, and we have to look forward for self-reliant India. So the sector where we can have a larger advantages because of the human cheap labor or human resource, we can have a larger advantages, and we have to find out those areas, and we have to try to become a self-reliant. Self-reliant means whatever is required in bigger quantity, if we could able to produce that, so we can save the international currency by creating a strong base of this particular production at the domestic level. So the growth incentive Ayushman Bharat that we have started, and it takes about the health care of entire country. So this is what growth incentive that we can have. Digital India, tech and digitization. This is another important aspect when we have talked about the technology and digitization, which is required, and the government efforts are there to reach the digital infrastructure at the rural level, and to strengthen them and to make them to participate in economic growth story of the country. Employment linked incentive schemes that government has already started, that is what financial support to employers and first time job seekers to boost formal employment, incentivizing hiring for 2 years. So what government has started employment linked incentive schemes, and that scheme supports to the employer those the particular range of investment business organizations are mentioned. So what employer, they will provide the assistant to employer and the job seekers also. So this is what an additional advantage to employers to provide the employment opportunities in the formal sector, because the formal employment, formal and informal sector, if we look at, then we found rarely less number of formal employment and higher number of informal employment. National infrastructure, that is the roads, ports, and this building of this railway network, So National Infrastructure Pipeline 2.0 that has been started, and 150 lakh crores um, investment is expected to make in this coming 2 3 years in the National Infrastructure Pipeline project. So another important thing is that role in global trade architecture. What role that India can play in global trade architecture? The first role is that what WTO engagement and reform advocacy. So the WTO engagement, nowadays we are seeing that America has twice or thrice during last almost 1 year, America has laid down the tariffs on the imported commodity to their country. So to avoid this and to disturb the entire production and trade system, the engagement, WTO engagement, and the uh, participation in WTO engagement and putting up the right things in the WTO. That is what important conditions that, and that India can play a significant role in this global trade architecture. Free trade agreements that some countries are what looking to their partners, and they are making the free trade agreements. Well, so the import duty and export duty, abolition of this, and they becomes a close partner, and even the currency trade has also been started in the domestic currency. The trade has also been started, and new currency are expected to come in the market. So the free trade agreement with strategic partner, now we have identified the partner as Germany and France, and our prime minister is visiting to most of the countries across the globe to strengthen our relations with them and to build the trade base with them. So these things, these are the advantages to our country, and finding new trade partners, and visiting there, making some agreement in some line of production, that will enable the country to build the strong base of production at the domestic level, and that will again helps to enter in the international level. South-South cooperation. So this is what another important aspects when we are talking about the South-South cooperation. Already we have a SARC, South Asian Association of Cooperation. So when we look at these things, again, India can play a significant role. Even in BRICS, India is playing a significant role. So this South leadership, global South leadership, has to be emerged, and India can become a significant and foremost player, making this South-South uh, global trade architecture. When we are talking about all these are the opportunities in front of the country like India. What are the challenges in international trade? So first challenge is what? Risk of protectionism. So this is what another, now it is emerged at what every country is trying to protect their industries, protect their production, protect their production system, their production network, and again there is a trade retaliations. So some countries are doing these practices. So this is the biggest challenge. So whatever is declared by the United States of America regarding the tariff duty and import duties, it adversely again impact on the our domestic market, because whatever was earlier, whatever was sent to the America uh, due to the tariff increase in tariff, that trade affects. So this risk of protectionism and trade retaliation, there is a fear that certain types of retaliation and protectionism would increase in coming future, because most of the countries are looking for their employment, for their production base, and this is what the biggest challenge in the international trade. Higher cost due to import substitution. So if we plan to make import substitution, it costs more to produce that particular commodity in the domestic market. So we cannot apply the rule of import substitution for every product, because we have to look into the comparative cost advantages also. Instead of wasting our resources by producing the commodity which incurred a higher level of cost, we have to go for the import for that. So this is what the principle of international trade. So the higher cost, if we have tried to import substitution, then it will have a higher cost, and most of our resources will be used for that non-comparative cost advantage production. So that is what another important aspect which we need to understand. Compliance with global standards and quality norms. This is what another important aspects when we are talking about the challenges in international trade. Global standards. If you look at this World Trade Organization, they have their green box, they have their amber box, they have their blue box conditions. So our cultivators are not fulfilling those. If those certain conditions that our cultivators would not be able to fulfill, then they will lose the international market for their product. So global standard and quality norms compliance is very important. So we have to, whatever is produced, whether it is in agriculture or whether it is in industry or manufacturing sector, we have to be very closely watch on the quality norms and the cost of production. So both the things has to be taken into account. If the cost of production is higher, then the product will lose the competitiveness at the global market. The quality is lower, again the product cost of production is lower, but the quality is lower, again it will face the competitiveness in the global market. So keeping in mind while producing anything that all the things has to be maintained. Infrastructure and logistic bottleneck. So this is again another challenge, and government is taking efforts and investing huge amount of money on building an infrastructure that is a road and modern infrastructure that is like metro kind of this logistic management, metro kind of building of metro for the city transportation to avoid the congestion on the road. So all these infrastructure is necessary for the smooth functioning of the manufacturing sector. So the infrastructure and logistic bottleneck has to be reduced. Even the logistic also, that has to be taken care. Then only whatever is produced in our country, without no time that we can reach to the international market, or we can reduce the time span to reach to the international market, and that is what another important aspect which we have. So when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat versus protectionism, that is self-reliance, isolationism, focus on competitiveness, not import bans. So whatever is imported in the country, that should not be banned, because if we ban certain things in our country to boost our domestic production, the other will follow the retaliation policy. So they will ban some of the produce which they are importing from our country. So import ban or the increasing tariff, that is not the solution to strengthen the international trade. That is what that can be used in other way. That whatever is produced in our country, that has to be competitive at the global level, and whatever is produced in the country, that has to be competitive to whatever is imported in our country from other countries. So in terms of cost, that has to be cost effective, and that has to be competitive in terms of quality and in terms of cost. So both the things has to be managed, then only we will be able to participate strongly in the international trade. Strategic openness with selective protectionism. Selective protectionism defense is like this. So other some certain areas where selective protectionism policy can be applied, but the countries across the globe, they are now opening up all the segment of the economy for the international trade. Impact on consumer and industry. So short-term price pressure. That is what first impact on the consumer and industry. So the short-term price pressure can be created uh, when we are talking about import substitution and export proportion. Long-term gains in employment and innovation. Again, there is another chance to the country that if they participate in international trade, there is a possibility of long-term gain. They can employ more number of laborers in the production system, and the innovation will leads them. Innovation will helps them to increase their competitiveness in the international market. Need for skill development and MSME support. So this is what third important conditions when we talk about need for skill and development, skill development and MSME. MSME is a sector where we can accommodate huge number of laborers. So therefore, government is supporting through various schemes to this MSME sector, because this MSME sector has a potential to become a part of this international trade. Policy supports and reforms which has been initiated by the government during last many years, and these policy support and reforms would help to them production linked incentive schemes, ease of doing business reforms, so reduce the compliances of starting a business or starting any kind of production or service activity. Digital public infrastructure that has to be provided, because when we talk about the digital divide, then we are seeing that the digital public infrastructure is not in up to the mark. Trade facilitation measures that has to be taken forward. Another important domestic reforms that has been laid down by the government during the last budget, and now it has existed. So direct tax code. So the take-home salary with the introduction of this direct tax code, the take and the revision in the tax slabs and rates, there is a possibility. The possibility has been emerged to more to have more money in the hands of people to spend on various commodities. GST rate cut that already we have known that. See, in September 2025, government has reduced GST rates on certain commodities and changed the bracket of the commodities, tax bracket of the commodities, and now we have only three types of simplified tax rate. That is a 0, 5, 18 and 40. 40% for luxury, 18 and 5 bracket. Most of the commodities has been merged. Earlier there was 9%, there was 12%. So that has been reduced, that has been abolished, and 5% and 80% simplified tax rate policy has been 5% is for essential and 18% for standard goods and service, and other 40% for luxury and same goods has been reformed. So these reforms are very important because while growing the economy, the base of consumption has also to be grown to match with the production system, and that is what you have to release more money in the hands of people so that they can go to the market and they can buy the commodity, and there will be boost for the market. Labor reform, social security, minimum wages, health facilities, and this is that we have seen the GST rate cut. In spite of GST rate cut, government is now collecting more revenue. So there is one Laffer curve theory. If you increase the tax rate, you will lose the tax revenue. So, but if you could reduce the tax rate, you will have a more tax revenue. So, to earn more tax revenue, there is a there must be a policy of the reduction in the tax rate, and we have seen that the tax collection has been increased due in spite of reduction in the tax rates. Now, digital physical infrastructure. This is what another important condition of achieving higher growth rate. It refers to a foundational set of system, often called the India Stack, that allow the government and private sector to deliver essential services to citizens at a population scale DPI provide digital physical infrastructure, provide the digital rails for secure flow of identity, money, and data. So this is what another important thing: digital identity, that is Aadhaar, that has been initiated. Digital payment UPI, that we have seen transaction rupees 70 lakh crores, and the data exchange. So these are the strength of our economy. So DigiLocker, ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce, Ayushman Bharat, Digital Health IDs, Diksha, Digital Infrastructure for School Education, and Bhashini, AI-powered language translation platform. Economic value added estimated to reach 2.9 to 4.2%. So when we talk about the AI powered, AI generated, and AI machine ML world, so this digital physical infrastructure plays a crucial role, because without the digital infrastructure, now it becomes very difficult to enter in the new market, to simplify the product, and to attract the customer. So digital divide, yes, digital physical infrastructure has been launched, but there is a digital divide found. So what is the digital divide? 25% of population still lacks reliable internet access, primarily in rural areas. So if you don't have access of this digital tool, how you can participate in the economic activity or any economic story of the country? So this digital divide, that is 25%, that has to be reduced, and this digital physical infrastructure has to be built even in rural area, with the high frequency, with the high speed network, and with the strong uninterrupted network. Privacy and security, managing essential biometric and financial data, because everything is now online. So the privacy and security are the big concern. So people are worrying about their assets, whether the assets are safe or not. So the protection, privacy and security, that has to be provided to them. Exclusion risk for most vulnerable population, that is called as authentication issues. Poverty inequality, increasing inequality. It is always said that our economy will reach at $30 trillion. But what would be the level of distribution of income in the society? So that distribution of income, if the increase and enhance the economy, enhance the income, increase the income, goes with a very few numbers of the population, then there would be again the issue of inequality. So along with the economic growth, along with the reaching to the Viksit Bharat, we need to take care about that the benefits of economic development will reach to the entire segment or the all people, those who are living in the country, and that needs to be understood. Redistribution of income, that task has to be taken again. Defined UBI, universal basic income. So those who are not able to earn money and to take care of the family, or those who are living in poor conditions, then the universal basic income, like assistance, has to be provided to those who are not able to participate in economic development and those who don't have the resources. So this universal basic income is a highly discussing issue in the policymakers. Quality of opportunities, quality public education, affordable housing, these are the very important basic infrastructure and giving assurance to the common public. So that again needs to be taken care. Skill gap, investment in human capital. That is what another important challenge before the policymaker, because see, we have a highest youth population when we compare to any other country, but investment in human capital is very less, and therefore we are observing the skill gaps in the graduates in the postgraduates in the higher education system. Encashment of human resource. So whatever human resource that we have, that is a resource. It can contribute to economic development. So their skills and their trainings, enhancement of skills are very important to make them the part of economic development. How we can make them the part of the economic development? Because of some interventions laid down for the skill enhancement. If their skill goes up, they will have a new opportunity to perform. They will contribute to the production system, and they will earn their own resources, and they would become a part of the market. So that is important conditions. High employment, underemployment, gap between underpaid and proper paid. So they again, this is another important story of our economy. So underpaid and proper paid and overpaid. So some persons are getting 300 rupees per day, some are getting 10,000, some are getting uh, 50,000 per day. So the gap between them, their payment is a huge. So this gap has to be reduced, and skill mismatch. So 10 to 14% skill mismatch is found in PLFS, periodic labor force survey report, and therefore labor force participation of women is also low, and that needs to be enhanced because 50%, almost 50% population is a female population. They are enrolled in the education, but their labor force participation is found to be low, and that has to be increased, and the intervention has to be made in the economy. Infrastructure deficit, that has to be cured, and agriculture distress, that we are seeing farmer suicides are, and several natural calamities. Due to several natural calamities, the farmers are in trouble, and that is what the biggest challenge in front of the government. Trade deficit, that is another important challenge. To control inflation is a precondition for higher economic growth. So now government has launched a flexible inflation targeting 4 plus 2 minus 2. So what is this 4 plus 2 minus 2? The inflation has to be 4 plus 2 and minus 2. So the 4 is the target, which is ideal rate of inflation that RBI aims to achieve. But if at all it increase, it should not be go beyond 6%. So 4 plus 2 minus 2, and it should not be go below 2%. So the 4, therefore it is called as a formula is called as a 4 plus 2 and minus 2. Plus 2% is termed as a tolerance band. Acceptable fluctuation is around 4% of targeting. Upper tolerance limit is 6%. After 6%, if inflation remain above 6% and below 2% of 3 consecutive quarters, that is for 9 months, the RBI is legally required to submit a formal report to the government explaining the failure and detailing remedial actions. So inflation control is very important to achieve and sustain the higher level of growth. And therefore, this targeting has been set for inflation. So this is what about estimation and measurement of growth, measurement of GDP growth in terms of dollar. So GDP growth in dollar, real GDP growth in rupees plus inflation in India, rate of depreciation of rupees with respect to dollar. If we look at the real growth rate is 7%, inflation is 5%, and rate of depreciation is 6%, then the GDP in dollar would be 7 plus 5. So the 5 is inflation minus 3, that is a depreciation, is equal to 9%. So if we could maintain all these 3 parameters, that is inflation, rate of depreciation, and real GDP, then only we would be able to achieve higher level of growth. And when we apply this formula 7 is used to calculate the number of years required for a sum of money to double in the value. So 70 divided by 7.77, that is 8 years to double the GDP. So if we could maintain this inflation at 5%, depreciation at 3%, and real GDP growth rate 7%, then our GDP would be doubled in coming 8 years. Means our GDP is $4 trillion current GDP. If we want to double it, then it would require almost 8 years. Means today we are in 2016, so 16 to 2034, that our GDP would be of $8 trillion. If we could provide it, that if we maintain the real GDP growth rate is 7%, inflation 5%, and rate of depreciation is 3%. So rate of rupee depreciation is observed since last 20 years. Is annual depreciation is found to be 3%. So when we look into this type of this, so 4 trillion. So if we look at the 32 trillion, so 4 4 to 8, 8 16, 16 to 30 trillion. So in coming 24 years, by 2050, that our economy would reach at almost $30 trillion economy. Looking into the entire this discussion, if you look at the growth strategy of few growing countries in the economy. So if we look at the China growth strategy, they have made modernization agriculture, simultaneously industry, defense, and science and technology. So this is their growth story, what they focused on. So they focused on agriculture and industry simultaneously. If we look at the Germany's growth story, they have built a competitive market economy, strong welfare state, and labor market policy, active fiscal policy. So every country and their growth story and the things which they have done are different. So looking into their entire domestic economy, they have started making intervention in this way. If we look at the Japan, their industrial policy, education, infrastructure, and export-oriented growth that they found, and they had made consistent intervention in these 4 areas. If you look at the Atmanirbhar Bharat pillars, then macroeconomics focus on growth, these three rates that I have already told, real GDP growth, depreciation, and inflation, that has to be under control. So the macroeconomic focus on growth should be in that way. Inclusive growth of large middle class, then ethical wealth creation, and virtuous cycle ignited by private investment. So through the way of private investment, we can have a virtuous cycle which can lead to saving, again investment, and again production, and again income. So these are the parameters that few countries have followed for their economic growth. What is the way forward when we look at the balance between self-reliance and openness? We should not rely only on self-reliance or only on openness. So there should be a balance. Whatever is produced in the country has to be competitive and has to be cost effective. That has to be keep in mind. Invest in RYD and human capital. Exchange export competitiveness, enhance export competitiveness, align Atmanirbhar Bharat with sustainable development, fiscal management and exchange rate management, reduce the cost of development, that is avoid the shocks. And at last, I can conclude my presentation since last 2.5 hours, that Atmanirbhar Bharat as a complement to globalization. This is not an isolated policy, but globalization is equally important while making the domestic production base, strong domestic production base, opportunity to reshape and redefine India's role in global trade. Outcome is depend on reforms and competitiveness and cooperation. So with this, I end my presentation. If you have any questions, we can go with the questions. So my presentation is over. We have 10 minutes to discuss. If you have any question, or whatever I have presented, if you understood and if you have any questions, you can raise that questions. So should we stop if you have no question? Is anybody there to listen me?
Yes, sir.
So then conclude. Hello? 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 Ha, ha. 20 ला काय आहे? नाही हो, रोजगार मिळावा आपला कुठे? हा? नाही नाही, माझ्याकडे तर काहीच नाही. नाही नाही, आपण ऑर्गनायझरच नाही त्याची. बाहेरचे कोणतर ऑर्गनायझर असतात. हॅलो, is anybody there to listen to me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So my presentation is over.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Should I leave now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Should I leave meeting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.